Hello and welcome to the Master of Orthoptics information session here at UTS this evening. My name's James. I work for the marketing team here at UTS Health, and I welcome you and thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us tonight. Before we get started, I'd just like to pay my respects to the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose ancestral land our city campus now stands. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders both past and present, and acknowledge them as the true custodians of knowledge for this land. I'd now like to hand over to Professor Catherine Rose, who is the Head of Discipline here at UTS Graduate School of Health for Master of Orthoptics. Catherine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, thanks, James. I'm going to sort of explain a little bit about the Master of Orthoptics to you. The Master of Orthoptics is located in the Graduate School of Health and is obviously a postgraduate degree, sometimes called GEMS, which are Graduate Entry Masters. So I'm going to explain to you what orthoptics is, what you'll study, a little bit about clinical placements, career opportunities, what scholarships are available, and the facilities that we have at UTS. Okay, so what is orthoptics? Well, the easiest way we explain ourselves is that we're eye therapists, and this is because we actually belong to the allied health professional group. So we're in the same sort of camp as physiotherapy, speech pathology, and those other perhaps better known allied health professions. We also, of course, sit in a fairly crowded area for a number of professionals in eye care. So you have ophthalmologists who are surgeons, and you have optometrists who are in sort of shopfront type situations and who supply glasses for people. Now, orthoptists are recognised to have expertise in the diagnosis and management of eye conditions, and particularly we work at what we might call the secondary and tertiary level. So again, we're working perhaps more closely with ophthalmology than optometry, though we do work with optometrists. And in particular, we're specialists in eye movements, in paediatrics and low vision rehabilitation. So these are key areas that we use our therapeutic role. Our aim, of course, is to help people maximise their vision and their comfort, because uncomfortable eyes are just as problematic in sometimes as eyes that don't see quite so well, in terms of people really being able to utilise their vision functions to the best advantage. One of the key things about orthoptics is we're in an area of rapidly advancing technology, and we use that advanced technology as well as our clinical skills to diagnose ocular conditions. So orthoptists work very much with the latest kinds of technology such as ocular coherence tomography, which would be sort of one of the better known ones, where you can actually visualise the 10 layers in the retina, which has made huge advances in the diagnosis and treatment of retinal eye conditions such as macular degeneration. So what's different about being at UTS Orthoptics? Well, one of the big things that UTS emphasises is industry engagement, and that's really important to health professions like orthoptics. Basically, we utilise our relationships with industry to get them to actually bring onto our campus some of the latest technology. So if we wanted to buy the latest technology every time it changes, and it seems to be changing every couple of years at the moment, we would be spending a lot of money, because a lot of that equipment is over $100,000. So what we ask industry to do is to bring that equipment on site, to leave it with us for a period of time so the students have a chance to become familiar with it, and then they take it away until we need that equipment next year. We, of course, do have our standard equipment that hasn't changed so dramatically, our slit lamps and synoptophores, but things like OCTs are things that are changing quite dramatically, and we have very good links with industry in this area. What we also do is absolutely have authentic learning experiences and authentic assessment. It's been a really important part of the way that we teach, because we are preparing within a 2-year period you to be a graduate who can go out and work in the public as an orthoptist. So it's really important for us to connect our theory and practice very directly to the skills and the attributes you need as a clinician. So you have extensive clinical placements. We do a lot of problem-based and realistic workshops and simulations, as well as we have our own extensive, what we call designated teaching clinics, as well as clinical space at 100 Broadway. We're very lucky to be in 100 Broadway. It actually brought the whole of Graduate School of Health together in the one location. We have something like 6 floors in that area. And on those floors, we have collaborative learning spaces, and we have an interdisciplinary environment, including a postgraduate lounge for students. We have, as I said, an on-campus clinic, as well as speech pathology and clinical psychology, and really state-of-the-art facilities at 100 Broadway. They're really quite extraordinary compared to what you might see at some other universities. I mentioned that we have extensive clinical placements. We have partnerships with over 65 clinical providers in Sydney. That includes hospitals, New South Wales Health, community placements, as well as placements in private practice, because a lot of orthoptics occurs in private practice. We also have rural, regional and interstate opportunities, and up until quite, pre-COVID, we had international placements as well. But hopefully they might be returning. I'm not quite so sure by the end of this year, but certainly hopefully by next year we'll be returning to some international placements as well. And they're very prestigious placements. In the past, we've had them in places like the Boston Children's Hospital, which is part of Harvard Medical School, the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, Singapore Eye Research Institute, and their national clinic. So that could just give you a flavour of some of the level of those international placements. Now, we've got quite a good team of people, and this is not the entire team, but these are our main academics, myself there obviously, and next to me is Dr. Amanda French, who is in fact our responsible academic officer for teaching and learning, and next to her, Mara Garibaldi, who's a very experienced clinician and works as one of our practitioner teachers, but also our external liaison officer. So she is making a lot of those contacts with industry. Along the bottom row, we've got Dr. Golzan, Dr. Machaba Golzan, who is a clinical researcher working extensively in the area of novel technologies and glaucoma. Next is Michelle Courtney Harris, again, one of our lecturers, closely followed by Felicia Adonato. And then Dr. Vincent Nguyen, who has a speciality in electrophysiological analysis of the visual system. And lastly is Dr. Vu Do. And Vu is actually only with us one day a week, but he is an orthoptist, but also a biostatistician. So he works in clinical research and gives us his benefit of his expertise one day a week in our research topics, which is fantastic. We also have practitioner teachers, many of whom are actually completing PhDs within the discipline. So we have several of those people, and a number of them will actually be joining the staff next year. So what are you going to study? Well, basically there are 5 streams within the course, within the Master of Orthoptics. We obviously concentrate on binocular vision and ocular motility because that's a major area of our expertise. And in fact, in this area, we work with both ophthalmology and neurology. So we just don't exclusively work with ophthalmologists, but also with neurologists. We also have a stream called ocular pathology, which obviously is orientated towards ophthalmics and the kind of work you would do in an ophthalmic practice. Rehabilitation is obviously working with people who have low vision or particular vision problems. And we're in the process at the moment of working a collaborative arrangement with Vision Australia, who's one of the major providers of low vision services in Australia. We also have a research stream and, of course, a clinical stream. And the clinical stream actually represents a significant portion of our course, but let's have just an overview of what the course is. And you can see some of the streams as you look at the names of the topics. So obviously, binocular vision, ocular motility 1 is followed by number 2, and it's also related to neurological ocular disorders. And you can see other streams. You actually start your clinical practice, professional practice, in the first year, but towards the end of the first year. So obviously we want to send you to your clinical placements with a fair degree of basic skills and basic understanding of how practices work and the kinds of conditions you might see, so that you get more benefit out of the clinical placement. In the final semester of the course, you'll see that you've only got 2 academic subjects and 1 professional practice subject, and that in fact is a major subject where you do your interstate or rural, regional, or hopefully international placements during that subject. So overall, it's 2 years. It is full-time. We don't step back from the fact that it is a full-time course, and we do have a mix of both local and international students. And that's because the courses in Australia, there are 2 courses in Australia, the other is at La Trobe, but we are in fact the only 2 courses for orthoptics in the whole Asia Pacific. So we do attract international students from a range of countries within the region. So you obviously learn some basic anatomy and physiology. It's ocular anatomy and physiology, obviously. If you have a background in basic systems for anatomy and physiology, that is of some use, but it's rare that anybody gets in an undergraduate degree the level of ocular anatomy and physiology that we teach in our course. We obviously also teach neuroanatomy and physiology because the brain is often, the eyes are often said to be an extension of the brain. And as such, you need to know quite a lot about the neuroanatomy of vision and general anatomy and neuroanatomy and physiology. We also study optics and the properties of light, and that is obviously important because we do use lenses and prisms to help people with their ocular conditions. And also, of course, when you're working in the area of low vision and rehabilitation, you're using lights and magnifiers and other tools to assist people to maximise their vision. So that's also an important component. I mentioned ophthalmics. Oops, we skipped one. I'll go back. Okay, so hopefully you'll see that, ophthalmics. I'm doing well here. So in ophthalmics, one of the things that a lot of people don't realise is orthoptists are involved very heavily in the area of cataract and refractive surgery. And basically, orthoptists are the people who are taking all the pre-operative measures for cataract and refractive surgery to actually assist the ophthalmologists in the choosing of the different types of lenses or the different ways, the parameters that are going to be set into the machines to reshape corneal tissue in refractive surgery. We also do the pre- and post-operative education, and we assist in surgery and including in minor surgical procedures. We also do post-operative assessment, and increasingly orthoptists are triaging patients post-cataract surgery, and if they're uncomplicated, they can be discharged, and of course if there's anything that needs further attention, then they can be referred on to the ophthalmic clinics. I also mentioned the imaging techniques. Imaging of the retina is really revolutionised ophthalmics, and we are the people who are experts in diagnosing and reporting on the images that are obtained from these kinds of imaging devices, and there are a number of different ones. So it's really heavily used in the diagnosis of macular degeneration and glaucoma and other retinal diseases. The next stream we call orthoptics because this is traditionally where orthoptists actually started as therapists. So this is talking about looking at people's eye movement abnormalities, looking at eye turns, which we call strabismus, and what is often known as lazy eye, but we know as amblyopia, which is particularly when there is an eye turn or an unequal refractive error in the eye, the vision in one eye as a child may not develop normally. And so orthoptists are the people who manage the diagnosis and therapeutic recovery of vision in that eye. We also look at disorders of binocular vision, the way you use your two eyes together. And of course, I mentioned that is related to neurological conditions. So some adult strabismus can result from a stroke. And of course, we also get patients who've been brain injured, may also have some of the visual functions affected. In fact, a lot of people don't realise that about 60 to 70% of the brain is actually involved in some form of visual function. So people who suffer neurological conditions are highly likely to have a vision problem associated. We obviously apply therapy, so we instigate therapy after stroke and brain injury. We treat amblyopia and strabismus. We train eye coordination. We use low vision aids and lighting, and we do the therapeutic prescription of glasses. Orthoptists are actually under legislation allowed to prescribe glasses, but we tend to use them in a therapeutic role rather than as is in normal optometric practice, designed to assist people to maximise their vision to overcome their short-sightedness or long-sightedness or astigmatism. And rehabilitation, so helping people with vision impairment, and that is people from a very young age because, of course, unfortunately, some children are born with visual impairment or develop visual impairment quite early from conditions such as retinitis pigmentosa. And we obviously also have vision impairment, unfortunately, from a range of age-related eye conditions. And these people all need assistance, and orthoptists are closely involved in that area. And in fact, we're recognised under the NDIS as the people who can provide this kind of assistance to people who need help with their visual impairment. Preparing you for clinical placement is done very much in-house. We utilise our facilities, but you are taught even some very kind of what might appear to be very basic clinical tools such as visual acuity. Visual acuity is never as straightforward as everybody thinks. You know, as an adult, you kind of go to the optometrist, you sit there and you read the chart and, you know, as far down as you can go and you think that's it. But in fact, measuring visual acuity accurately is in fact much more complicated. And then if you move outside what we would call literate populations, so that's in particular children who are pre-literate, there becomes a whole range of other ways we measure visual acuity, but you have to have a very good understanding of the principles of measuring visual acuity to actually modify visual acuity testing so that you can still get an accurate measure. We measure colour vision. There's a variety of ways of doing that. The little coloured disc there is the Ishihara test, and that's usually done to test people for congenital red-green colour blindness, which exists in about 8 to 10% of the male population and about 1 to 2% of the female population. The other little test there, which you can actually do on yourself looking at the screen, is contrast sensitivity. Now, when you have visual impairment, it's not just your visual acuity that's important, which is a sort of a black symbol on a white background, but also your capacity to see varying shades of grey. So here we've got reduced contrast towards the top of the screen, and we've got what we call decreasing spatial frequency of stripes going to the to your right of the screen, I hope. And if you actually look to where you can still see the stripes, you can actually see it's kind of slightly a curved function. It's not just sort of a uniform function. So the area underneath that curve is described as your area of contrast sensitivity function. And that contrast sensitivity function can diminish quite remarkably in some people with certain conditions, whereas their visual acuity may not actually reflect that. So they may have somewhat better visual acuity than they have contrast sensitivity function. But contrast sensitivity function is really important for things like just getting around in the real world and being able to locate objects, because not everything, of course, is black against a white background or sharp against a high contrast background. So we aim to give you over 280 hours of clinical placement over the 2 years. And as we said, we have a number of different sites. We're in the major hospitals, including Sydney Eye Hospital and the Children's Hospital at Westmead, to name some. You do have a compulsory outside Sydney placement, which ranges from about 4 to 5 weeks, which you usually do in the second half of the second year. You can nominate where you would like to go. A number of people often go to places where they have either friends or family, so you could go to Brisbane or West Australia or Northern Territory or South Australia. We tend not to overlap with Victoria, though we are in negotiations with La Trobe at the moment about how we might be able to swap some placements in New South Wales and Victoria. And as I said, I'm hoping that our international placements will be up and running again by next year. I've got fingers crossed for this year for Singapore, but you know, every time my fingers slightly uncrossed, something happens, like it's just happened today, where we're back on into mask wearing and 2 metre social distancing. So I'm not holding my breath about when we might get back to our international placements, but they're by application because they're usually oversubscribed. More students want to go than we've actually got those placements. And so we actually ask students to apply for them. And hopefully that will be back by the time you would be doing your clinical placements outside Sydney. A lot of people want to know about the career opportunities in orthoptics. They are very, very strong. They have remained strong. We've been graduating around about 55 orthoptists every year since we moved to UTS. In 2016, we graduated our first cohort. And those people are all getting jobs, not necessarily always in clinical careers. Some people move towards industry careers, which are also available. There is also strong demand for orthoptists overseas because Australian orthoptists are actually well recognised as being extremely well trained. If you wanted to work in Britain or Canada, you would have to apply for registration in those countries because they also have relatively strong or quite strong training programs as well. There's a diversity of careers. There's hospital careers, private practice, vision science, and of course, vision rehabilitation careers as well. And I know that one of the reasons Vision Australia is wanting to team up with UTS Orthoptics is because they are very keen to have many more orthoptists in their staff and managing their clinics. Okay. At the moment, we have one scholarship, which is the Frank Martin Scholarship. It's for commencing students. You apply for it, and it goes to the student with the highest GPA entering the course. It doesn't pay your entire course fees, but gives you some money to assist you with clinical placements and any other aspects of managing your time in the career. In the course, sorry. We mentioned 100 Broadway and the Graduate School of Health building. That's a picture of it there. I'm currently located in my office on 100 Broadway, and it really is a lovely, lovely building. And I've had some external people here quite recently, and they've all been very, very complimentary about the facilities and also the spaces that we have here. And of course, we have postgraduate lounge for students on the 6th floor. And we also have, as I said, our designated teaching clinics and also our clinical spaces, which are all available for students. Okay. All right. So these are a little bit of information about how to apply. There is an alumni advantage. UTS graduates save 10% on the course fees. So if you're an alumni of UTS, you have that. International students must submit an application via UTS International. And UTS does have a partial scholarship for international students with high GPAs. You don't apply for those are awarded on application, when your application is processed. One of the things I need to say to you is that these programs are highly competitive and places are limited. We actually intend to take about 60 students. The places are capped largely because of clinical placements. We need to ensure that every student gets sufficient clinical placement, and in order to do that, we hold the number at about 60. Having said that, we get well over that in terms of applications. So that we usually have more than double that number of people applying. So you need to be aware that the places are competitive, and quite often we actually have to close offers before everybody has put their application in. And I know in our current cohort, we did have some, I had 2 people who said that they missed out the previous year and had waited a year to actually then reapply, and they reapplied earlier rather than later. Part of the application process is an interview. So if you get an interview, it means your application has been deemed competitive, and we ask you at the interview a series of set questions which really are trying to find out if orthoptics is the right fit for you. We basically, because we limit the numbers of students and there's high demand, we're very keen that we have students come into the course who are going to be able to complete the course and who are really going to be passionate about the profession. I think that's an important aspect, and it's really what creates a great collegial and great atmosphere amongst the students. And because the cohorts are small, the students actually are usually very, very cohesive and collaborative and collegial with one another, which is great. Okay, I think we're up to question time.
The first one is, when you say full-time, so when you say the course is full-time, how many days or hours per week are involved?
That's a question everybody wants to ask. It's, of course, changed somewhat with COVID in terms of what we're delivering online and what's delivered on campus. But in reality, we've always said to students, it's effectively almost 5 days a week. And you've got to remember our semesters are long, and you've got to also remember that there are times in inter-semester breaks and at the end of semester where you will go on clinical placement. So if you think about it, we're making you a health professional and letting you loose on the public after only 2 years of training. So you can understand that it is very full-time. The decision going forward is that we will retain lecture material where appropriate online, but all our workshops and clinical laboratory sessions will be on campus. On average, you will have per week per subject 2 hours of workshop and 2 hours of clinical laboratory session. Now, that varies, of course, in the last semester when you're out on a lot of clinical placement. The last 2 subjects are taught totally academic subjects are taught totally online. But in that first year, you can at least expect per subject 4 hours of on-campus activity. So times that by 4, and that's 16 hours, as well as the time you have to spend on looking at the lecture material and doing assessments and further study. So it is fairly full-time, yep.
Thanks, Kathy. I do have a few more that I think were sent to me directly, but there's one here from Christian. What is the eligibility for admission into the program? I think that's a prerequisite question.
Right. First of all, we don't have any prerequisites. The reason being for that is if we did have prerequisites, it would be in the area of anatomy, physiology, neuroscience. The problem with neuroscience, the way it's taught at other universities varies quite widely. And so we can't guarantee that you've had sufficient grounding in our particular area when you actually come into the course. So basically, we're aiming to teach you everything you need to know within the course itself. The anatomy and physiology subjects and neuroscience will give you an initial kind of leg up, if you like, and allow you to deal with some familiar topics. But we look largely at GPA. We want to credit GPA or above. The credit average GPA we've found indicates somebody who has really sorted out how they learn, their own learning style, and really what we want are good learners. So there's that aspect. And then, of course, there's the interview. And we do look at different aspects of your reasons for coming into the course and wanting to be in the profession, and your motivation for doing it. So that also counts towards eligibility for entry.
Thanks, Kathy. All right, back to a few that I have been sent directly. Now, Kathy, you did say about 4 to 5 weeks for placements outside of Sydney, but this question is how many hours of clinical placement outside of Sydney are required?
Basically, if we send you outside Sydney, we try to get you full time into clinical placement. So basically, you're out in a clinic full time. Whenever the clinic's running, you're in the clinic. So that's the basic idea of going on those placements. We want you to maximise your time in those placements. Yeah.
Cool, thanks. And I've got another one here. Sorry, I was a bit late. I eventually want to pursue ophthalmology. Do you think this master's would help me on my journey?
It's a very, very long journey to ophthalmology. And of course, you would require a medical degree. Now, we do have some people who've gone from orthoptics into medical degrees. And in fact, one of our graduates from last year got into medicine in Western Australia. I contacted the professor of ophthalmology in Western Australia and said, I've got this really good student who's joining University of Western Australia to do medicine. And he said, fantastic, get her to contact me. When she's got her research project coming up, she can come and do it with us in our research facilities at the Lion's Eye Institute. And so she's, I think, on a road that might lead her to ophthalmology. But there's a lot of hurdles to go, even past getting into medicine, to get into ophthalmology. So ophthalmologists are medically trained surgeons. So it takes a number of years. I think something quite close to, I think some have said sort of 10 to 11 years to actually finally get fully qualified as an ophthalmologist. So it's a long path.
Wow. Another one from Christian. What are the English requirements for international students?
Okay, so it's either you degree in a country where English is the native language, and you've obviously studied your degree in English, or you sit the IELTS test, and the entry point, cut-off point there is 6.5. We're a little bit lower than some of the others, and that's because I very clearly made the decision that we had an obligation to train international orthoptists because of the lack of training schools in the Asia-Pacific region. So that's basically an overall 6.5.
So can we apply without having completely finished our undergraduate degrees?
Yes, absolutely. What happens in that circumstance, if your GPA is already sitting at the right level and you pass the interview, you'll get what we call a conditional offer. And that's conditional on you completing the course by the end of the year. So we have a number of people who come into the course while they're still completing their undergraduate degree. So obviously, you know, the timing of our making offers precedes you getting your final marks at the end of the year. So that's when you get offered a conditional offer.
What is generally involved in the interview? As in, is it largely used to ensure that the student is certain about going into the orthoptics field, or are there other important aspects or questions that you're looking for / that I should know?
The first one, we usually ask you is, what do you know about orthoptics? So we want somebody who has actually studied what the profession's about, learned a bit about it, so that they actually are coming into the course knowing that this is what they want to do. I mean, nothing's more disheartening for us in turning some people away and then having a person say in the first week or two, say, this course isn't really for me and I don't think this profession's really for me. Well, we don't really want that to happen. So we are looking very much that you know what you're doing, you understand what you're getting into, and that you really want to work with people. That's very important, and that, you have the kinds of attributes that will stand you in good stead both in the course and in the profession. Yeah. Is there a minimum GPA? We say that we want an average GPA. So average GPA is around sort of from about 4.5 up. We do sometimes look at applications somewhat a little bit below an average credit, because what we often are looking for is what I described as an upward trajectory. So I know that sometimes when people come into university, first off, they're not particularly settled. And so their first year can be just a little bit wobbly, might be the best way to describe it. And then they kind of learn what they're really wanting to do, and they knuckle down and they discover how to learn, and you watch their marks sort of go upwards right through the course. Now, the person I would actually give a story about, and actually there's a video of Prem on our website. Prem came to us from the Bachelor of Biomedical Science at University of Sydney. I took a gamble on Prem at interview. He had an upward trajectory, and we talked quite extensively about how he'd approached his studies and how he'd changed things through the course. Prem went on to do extremely well in the Masters. Prem has now completed and submitted his PhD on brain injury and concussion in particular, and detecting concussion in football players and young sports players. And he now is moved into a middle management role with the company Zeiss. So that's Prem's trajectory in life, and I think he's very, very happy with what happened, and very happy that we took a little bit of a bet on him right at the beginning. And I'm always prepared to look at people who just fall below that minimum GPA and to see if they've got that upward trajectory. Okay? It's not a hard and fast rule. I do actually look at the applications, and I do look at the transcripts.
Great. I've got a direct message from Clayton. Question, sorry. I've worked with 11 different ophthalmologists between Wollongong and Nowra, and currently work casually for one while I'm finishing my bachelor. I would like to work in a hospital setting. I would preferably like to work in a hospital setting, I think that means. How competitive are they to get?
They're reasonably competitive. The ones that are most competitive are the paediatric positions, because there's a lot of people who want to work with children. But having said that, there are a number of roles in hospital environments, and they do come up. I'm thinking very much here about St George and the Sutherland region, if you've been working around Wollongong, because I do know that they, that's one of the areas that is in need of growth. So the other one, of course, which is also in that kind of direction, is the hospital out at Campbelltown. So those areas, certainly there are particular jobs there as well. So there are jobs in hospital environments, and they come up, and as soon as you see them, you go for them. Yeah.
I think
also, actually, if you want to really work in hospitals, go interstate, because I know that the hospital systems in interstate are really struggling for orthoptists. Yeah. So if you really want a hospital job, yeah, that's the best place to start out trying if you really want that first out.
If we are a domestic student, does that mean we need to sit the IELTS test?
No, you won't need to. The only reason why you would potentially need to, if you are a domestic student, is if you have qualifications from overseas. So that would be like you've studied overseas and therefore you've maybe got a degree from Singapore or somewhere else, and you may need to in that instance. But for the most part, domestic student with a domestic degree should be fine.
One from Daniel, are candidates assessed on both GPA and interview for entry, or is GPA considered only a hurdle for the interview?
It's effectively a hurdle for the interview. That would be correct. Yeah.
Okay.
It's fair that we would interview somebody with a low GPA. You know, we have had some people who've been able to make a particular case, but it's very, very rare. Very rare.
And one from Alexia. You mentioned that orthoptists help with surgery. To what degree do they assist?
It depends on the practice, but what you might not be aware of is that if you you may have seen in some of the suburbs these sort of big vision eye institutes, or they've got a variety of different names. They are actually big companies and they actually run day surgery. So they are doing refractive surgery and cataract surgery as day surgery in those practices, as well as minor surgical procedures as well, which you know, may not involve full anaesthetics or you know, particularly complicated procedures. So orthoptists actually do assist in those procedures, and it really depends on the willingness of the ophthalmologist to train you into their particular methods and how much you go in. I've certainly worked with minor surgical procedures in my career, and most of the orthoptists working in the big ophthalmic practices are actually doing assisting in the minor surgical procedures, as well as cataract and refractive surgery. Yep.
Alexia says, thank you. One from Vincent. My university goes by WAM instead of GPA. What will be the WAM equivalent to be competitive?
What's the WAM equivalent?
How do you know that one?
Most of them generate a GPA, but if you're getting a credit average, so if you look at your course, if you're getting on a credit average, if most of your subjects are that, you would get a calculated GPA that would be eligible. So it's really looking at that, whether you've got, you know, a good spread of credit and above subjects. It doesn't mean that if you've got a few, you know, a few passes in there and they're offset by the Ds and the HDs, then that'll still give you, obviously, the credit average. Yeah. I'm not sure about the conversion of a WAM. Are you, Aldi?
They're actually, so the conversion from WAM to the 7-point GPA, which is what we use here at UTS, there is a formula to do it. It does vary for each university, but
yeah.
What applicants do need to know is that when they do apply, particularly if they apply direct to us or through UAC, that will actually get converted into a 7-point scale for us, because that's the movement that all universities are kind of going towards now anyway. Because it matches more internationally. So you don't need to worry about that, so to speak. But as Professor Rose said, if your GPA or rather your WAM is, you know, in that credit range, you should be fine.
We don't have the exact date in June yet. It's we're thinking it's going to be mid-June, I thought, when we discussed it, Aldi.
July, potentially, July. Yeah, mid-July. So that was based on last year. Last year it was about mid-July. Applications did open. So do keep an eye out for that. Just on that though, international students can apply sort of all year round. That doesn't have an exact open or close date. But it's just domestic students. Just keep an eye out around middle of the year.
Because we're already interviewing international students at this point. Yeah.
Alexia says, no worries, thank you very much. I must have missed it. No, Alexia, you didn't miss it. We didn't put it on the slides. So that's our fault. And I will make sure that information's on the slides when I send them out to you, to the email address that you registered with either tomorrow or the next day.
And basically the date that our applications open are the same for everybody, for all the other courses as well. So it's a general a university arranged date that they will open.
There is a volunteer organisation called Cambodia Vision. I'd like to volunteer and go help next year, but will likely be during session. Is that a possibility?
Not really. And actually, we follow a very precise kind of philosophy around aid. And it actually was engendered initially by Fred Hollows, who I worked with, Fred Hollows Foundation. And that is that when you go to volunteer, you have to contribute more than you're taking. And one of the things that's very clear is that as you go to a volunteer, there is a certain amount of resource locally put towards assisting you, particularly in countries that are underdeveloped or third world countries. Now, for instance, my last volunteering trip, which is a few years ago now, but was into Myanmar to Burma. And everybody on that team had to have a very specific role whereby you were making a contribution to the people you were working with. So what we say to students is, while you're being trained, you don't have a full set of skills that would be of great benefit to the local population. So what we prefer you to do is to look for those volunteering opportunities once you're a graduate. And there are multiple volunteering opportunities for Orthoptics. There are teams that have in the past regularly gone overseas. I think the last ones would have been the Mercy ship ones, I think, might have been about the last to go into the Pacific Islands. But again, of course, volunteering at the moment and going overseas is very, very tricky. So we don't encourage it because we say you really need to be qualified. You need to really have skills to go on to those kinds of trips and be an asset to the team. So it's very different style of volunteering to that you would get perhaps at an undergraduate level, and also some of the volunteering can be quite confronting, which is another aspect that we would like you to be well trained to deal with before you actually head into those environments. Yeah. That's a bit of a serious note at the end, but it's something that we're quite passionate about, and certainly that was always, Fred Hollow's idea was that you actually went in to train people to be the ophthalmic surgeons, to be the orthoptists, to be the ophthalmic nurses. You didn't go there with the idea that you would just fly in and fly back out and sort of leave things sort of barren behind you as you sort of whisk away with all your lovely equipment. And that's been very much the philosophy that we've also adopted to volunteering. Yeah.
Clayton says, okay, no worries. Thank you.
As soon as you have a skill set, you're more than welcome on volunteering. And there's actually, teams that go out very regularly from Australia to a number of different locations.
Okay, great. Well, we've got about 3 minutes left on the clock, so I think we might end it there. But if you do have any more questions for Kathy or Aldi, please feel free to send those through. Aldi's contact details or GSH's contact details are on the last slides of the presentation. So you'll be getting those as well. So you can reach out with any questions you might have. And before we do leave, though, I want to thank you for those that are left in the meeting. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to join us tonight.
Yes, and I hope that I'll have a chance to talk to you, and I might see you across the desk or on Zoom when we come to our interview session. So I'm hoping that that'll be the case.
Alexia says thank you very much.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening and good night.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.